What mistake should have killed you? One time when I was young and carefree, I was riding a motorcycle for maybe the second time, like 30 miles per hour, and just had some wires in my brain misfire. I was like, I wonder what would happen if I crossed my arms and held the left handlebar with my right hand, the right with my left. I'll tell you what happened. I just narrowly missed oncoming traffic and smacked right into a wall. I stumbled through a bush which had a 1-meter drop after it where I fell down. I landed on my back at the only place down there which didn't have a iron pole sticking out of the ground. When I was in high school, me and a few friends all lied to our parents and told them we were spending the night at each other's houses. What we had really done was backpacked up a snowy Idaho mountain in the middle of winter without telling anyone where we were going. We were all fairly inexperienced in winter backpacking. The friend in charge of bringing food brought chicken he'd cooked at home, so we could eat it cold in case we couldn't start a fire. Luckily I'd brought a can of chili and didn't partake in the chicken. I woke up the following morning to a fresh foot of snow and my friends vomiting out of the tent. We'd left our boots outside and they were completely frozen through. The shoelaces of my boot were pointing up and out and had zero bend. Me and one other friend were not sick and had to pack up the tent. The most freezing cold work I've ever done. I gave one of my sick friends my gloves because he couldn't find his. We were about 3 miles into the hike and the trail we'd taken was totally covered and none of us were familiar with it enough to know it by memory. I took all but one pack and ran down trail to the car, making my best guess on which way to turn and marking those choices with ski poles. Got to the car, started it up to get it warm and to check if we had cell reception. We didn't. And then I ran back up trail to where they were and we carried them back to the car. I got home and felt like total garbage. My entire body was on fire from the cold and the soreness. I felt freezing to my bones, and when I got home I started puking and was pastel white and sickly looking. My dad was pissed at me because I was hungover and I opted for that punishment rather than the insane fury it would have caused if he knew why I was actually in my condition. Retentioning a garage door spring and the tension tool popped out. The door crashed with enough force to crack the pavement. I remember organizing my room when I was 10 or so. I had a lava lamp on the verge of falling of my cabinet. I didn't notice until I heard a loud chatter on my floor. For some reason my brain thought it would be a good idea to pick up all the shards. I jabbed my foot with a huge piece of glass and passed out from the pain. Woke up in a hospital bed thinking it and realized the shard was gone from my foot, was stitched back up, and getting relieved looks from my family. Turns out when I passed out, I hit my head on the cement floor. I was living in my parents' basement and cracked my skull partially open and was bleeding profusely. I got taken to the hospital. My family thought I was dead. Taking on a plus 70 hours a week job just for the money. I hated the job, I hated my boss and I hated myself. I could not look myself in the mirror anymore. I was this close to a heart attack, gained 60 kilograms, and could hardly sleep, but every month plus 12k on the bank account made me get up again and again. My wife said either you quit or I walk, really saved my life. Dove into a pool and broke my neck at the sea-to level, hangman fracture it's called. I was so drunk I thought I just pulled a muscle or something, so I kept partying. There's pictures of me with a bag of frozen peas on my neck grilling, taking a shot from an ice luge, etc. All while my fucking neck was broken. Once the disc popped out, because I was playing chicken with someone on my shoulders in the same pool hours later, that's when I realized that maybe something was wrong. 1 emergency spinal fusion surgery, 5 days in the hospital. 3 months bedridden, medical discharge from the army, RIP that career, and I'm good as new. I totally should be dead or paralyzed. Pissing off a cliff, wasted on Jack Daniels. My girlfriend at the time pulled me back by my sweatshirt, or that would have been it. Not wearing a helmet while on a bicycle and stupidly turning left just as a car overtook me. Somehow I only got a neat scar through my eyebrow and some torn up kneecaps from it. But the look on my mother's face when she picked me up from the hospital, that made me realize how profoundly stupid I was that day. When I was a kid during grade school, my mom told me to meet her at a local park because we were going to have picnic with family. I just got my first phone, a Nokia. This will be relevant later. Anyway, I got to the park around 30 minutes early, so I sat down on a bench. So I just sat and played Snake on my phone. Then this guy approaches me. He asked if I was a local. My city is known to be a tourist destination. I said yes, and then he asked if I knew the way to a local tourist spot. Now I was young and naive, and despite being taught about stranger danger, I was eager to help a tourist find his way. I told him yes, I knew the way. Then he asked if I could bring him there. Again, being a young dumbass, I agreed. Now there are a lot of ways to go to this tourist spot, but this dude asked if we could pass by a certain way because he said he wanted to go to his hotel and get a Game Boy and give it to me because I was such a helpful dumbass child. I never owned a console, so I got excited and told him sure. On the way he talked about all the children he has given a Game Boy to and how many he had made happy. I felt at the time that this guy was legit and that he actually just liked making kids happy. He even gave me 100 pesos, around $2, because I was being so helpful. Once we got to the vicinity of the hotel, we stopped and he said that he had to make a call. Once he was done, he said that his room had left and he had no key, so we just had to go to the original destination because that's where the Game Boy was. I was like, okay, I mean I had time to kill, so there was no problem with me. Now the thing is, from the park there are a lot of multiple routes we could have gone through to get to this destination because the park is in the center of the city. Now though, the fastest way was through a road that had fewer people and traveled through by less cars. This didn't raise any red flags for me because I was a fucking dumbass. So I told him the fastest way was through that secluded road. He seemed like a pretty okay guy and we just conversed along the way. When we were about a quarter through that secluded road, my mom called. She asked where I was, and I answered that I was trying to just help a tourist get to his destination, and I was at the secluded road. My mom started freaking out and telling me to GTFO. I never heard my mom that panicked and mad, so I told the guy sorry and just ran. He didn't chase after me, but he just stared at me while I ran away. I met up with my family. Mom got mad at me for going with a stranger. Had picnic, all was good. When we got our weekly paper, I was excited to check the Sunday comics. So I grabbed the paper, but on the front page of the paper was a report about some group nabbing children for organ harvesting. To be honest, I never connected the dots till I was high school. Passed out in the woods after running from the cops. I was at a party in college and decided I was done, so I started walking home. Got like half a mile from campus when a cop pulled over to talk to me. It was like 3 AM and my drunk ass can't walk in a straight line on the sidewalk. My instant drunk reaction to seeing the blue lights was to bolt into the woods at full speed. Naturally, I can't see what obstacles are in my way, so at some point I had tried to either climb a fence or run through thorn bushes. Eventually I ran headfirst into a tree and fell down. I had probably the most absurd thought I've ever had. If I hold my breath, the cops can't see where I am. So I did that and passed out while lying on my back in the woods. I woke up a few hours later as the sun was coming up and realized I had shredded my clothes and my face/arms looked like I had been attacked by an animal with all the scratches. The worst one being a vertical cut that went lengthwise down the interior of my forearm, starting at my wrist. This was 12 years ago, and I can still see the scar from that particular cut. The rest have healed and faded, but that one is still prominent. Had that been a little deeper, I have no doubt I would have bled out while lying on the ground in the woods if I didn't already die from alcohol poisoning. There were probably 3 or 4 things that should have killed me that night but didn't. 3 years old. Love M&Ms. Find blue ones behind stove. Yum. Rat poison. Climbed onto one of those underpasses that allow river water to flow through when I was like 5. Got swept in the current and taken down the river. Only reason I survived is my dad saw my long hair barely under the current and jumped in to save me. Car crash at 80 km/h. I hit a car that was going through a red light perpendicular to my direction of travel, came to a dead stop after hitting the back quarter panel / wheel of their car whilst they barrel rolled 3 times into the nature strip. I hit the windscreen with my head because I'm 6 feet 5 inches and wasn't wearing a seatbelt because I thought I was top shit. Both myself and the other driver walked away unscathed, which was the most surprising of all. I was taken to the hospital because of my collision with the windscreen, but was released shortly after some scans that came back okay. I don't know what saved me or the other driver that day, but I thought I died for several seconds after the impact and airbags went off, only to realize I was a bit dazed but generally fine, which followed with moments of disbelief and joy.